Der Winter herrscht in draußen nicht und Schnee fällt ohne Schier. Nur da in Heim ist freilich rein und kalt vergessen mir. Sind Kinderlach, die Lichterlach, vergessen ich kein Mal. Gedenk von jener Zeit, die Helden von Amol. Jehuda hält a Reus im Feld, bis Sohn von Chashmoinoim. Du hast gesiegt und hast besiegt, die Sonim, die Rishonim. Sind Kinderlach, die Lichterlach, vergesse nicht kein Mal, Gedenk von jener Zeit, die Helden von Amol. Und alle Jahr, von Dor zu Dor, besingen mir dem Gieber, was hat gesiegt und hat besiegt, die Sonim, die Rishonim. Sind Kinderlach, die Lichterlach, vergesse nicht kein Mal, Gedenk von jener Zeit, die Helden von Amol. Und wer es will zum Dredelspiel, ihr weißt doch, die Simonim, a Schim ist schlecht, a Gimel recht, a Reus mit Musumonim. Sind Kinderlach, die Lichterlach, vergesse nicht kein Mal, Gedenk von jener Zeit, die Helden von Amol.
I said at the beginning that our home felt deeply religious, even though it was quite secular. The way my mother talks about her repertoire explains how this came to pass. She says repeatedly that song is tefillah, prayer. She says, if I can't plead with God through prayer, I plead with him through song. Als ich kann nicht beten durch a tefillah, bete ich durch a Lied. So like Jewishness itself, singing did not relate to just one part of life. It had to relate not just to festivities, but for all of life, and of course for its critical moments as well. And since death was omnipresent, there had to be songs for death as well as for life. Death came in many forms. In April 1919, shortly after the Polish army had occupied Vilna, a gang of Polish legionnaires broke into the home where the Yiddish poet and playwright Aleph Weiter was staying, and they dragged him out and they shot him in the street. And they also shot his girlfriend, who had tried to shield him with her body. Now, Weiter's girlfriend was a good friend of Mother's sister, and this death was never far from her consciousness. The killing also left a tremendous impression on Vilna Jews. And as the Yiddish critic Shmuel Niger wrote, it struck the Jewish world like a thunderbolt. And in fact, the Weiterbuch was put out the following year as one of the many commemorations of this horrible event. Now, at the public commemoration in his memory, a Yiddish school choir sang a hymn by Avram Reisen set to the music of Mendelssohn, his Melody Without Words. And from that time on, this hymn was sung at the funerals of many students who died in the epidemics of typhoid and dysentery that plagued the city. It happens that this same melody was also sung in Hebrew to a poem by Shaul Chernichovsky entitled Ani Mamin that begins, Sachki, Sachki, al hachaloimois. Mock my dreams if you wish, but I believe in the human spirit, in a new generation of Jews that will arise, full of passion and vitality and strength. So that was obviously a very different cultural message than the one in this commemorative Vilna dirge. Just one other thing about this song, a much bigger cultural shock awaited my mother in Montreal. She says that at the first wedding that she attended in Canada in 1941, at the very imposing Shara Shemayim congregation in Westmount, which is the wealthiest and the most prestigious area of the city, this same Mendelssohn Melody Without Words was played as musical accompaniment for the bridal party walking down the aisle. Now, by 1941, the news from Europe was, of course, very bad, and Mother was appalled that at such a time, her sacred hymn was being given such frivolous application by the Jews of Canada. And so she determined to move across town to the Jewish immigrant area, which is actually where David was born and where we then went to school. And so that you see, this song, in some way, determined the course of our lives. The lyrics are as follows: the loveliest song, the loveliest melody, don't sing them when fortunes are rising, sing them in times of decline. Ring out sounds of glory, though the spring has passed us by, though the sun has long since set, and though the poet is dead.
Die schönste Liedgesangen, die schönste Melodie, nie sing beim Blühen, nur sing beim Untergang. Nie sing beim Blühen, nur sing beim Untergang. Klingt euch ihr schöne Klangen, Hotsch der Mai ist schon vorbei, Hotsch die Sonne ist schon vergangen, Hotsch der Dichter ist schon tot, Hotsch die Sonne ist schon vergangen, Hotsch der Dichter ist schon tot.
My mother claims not to have learned any new songs after she came to Canada in 1940. This happens not to be true. When she would wash my hair, she always sang the same song, Mach zu die Egerlach, ot kummen Fegerlach und kreisen doarum zu Koppens von dein Weg. It was a song written in the Lodge Ghetto in 1941, and she couldn't possibly have learned it before 1946. But that's really a historical aside, because in my mother's own narrative, there's a very powerful sense of closure, that this repertory comes to an end at a certain moment in time. And that moment is when she describes her leave-taking with her beloved sister Anushka, Anna Warszawski, who had become, between the two world wars, an accomplished folk singer. My mother describes hearing her sing on the radio. She sang in Riga, and she could pick it up, apparently, and this was very unusual at that moment in time to hear Yiddish on the radio. They had their last reunion in Chernovitz in that year, 1939. They hadn't seen each other in 16 years. And, of course, what my mother recalls are the songs that Anushka sang to her during that last meeting, especially this one by Masha Broderson. Broderson was the official lyricist of that cabaret theater, the Bande and Ararat, and I guess you would say the second most popular singer in my mother's repertory. As bittersweet as the moment of parting was, this song sends out a very different message. Let the wheel of fortune turn as it may. Today it turns to me, tomorrow to you. Let the wheel of fortune turn as it may.